starts in 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey everybody, this is Black Diamond, and you're tuned in to Basic Black After Dark. You know that's the show that meets you where you are and gives you exactly what you asked for. Tonight, we're going deeper than ever before. You've been following The Habitual Liar, the book that I wrote, and there's no mistaking the way that it's spelled. Then you already know this story is more than just deception. It's about survival. It's about trauma, identity, and the dangerous truths we hide even from ourselves. But now it's time to do the work. Alongside this groundbreaking psychological thriller, we're diving into the Habitual Liar Workbook series. Cracks in the surface, strengths in the core, not easily broken. Now, that's a space created for those ready to confront their truth, process their pain, and reclaim their power. Before we begin tonight's panel with our wonderful panelists, let's check in on the last segment. So, we're going to talk to our panelists about the workbook that we introduced last week, well, the last month. And we were talking about quotes, and that exercise was on page 21. It was a reflective space to identify the words that breathe life into our healing journey. Whether it's a quote that inspires or empowers or grounds you in your truth, it matters. So here's our question to our panel. We can all bring them up right now. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome, Farron. Welcome, BG. Welcome, Shayna. Welcome, Bobby. And welcome, 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 Nicole. Hey, we got Rachel that's going to be joining us soon. And we
Make sure
also
you guys
have Dr.
can you
Kelly
hear me?
Stevens that will be coming in.
Can you guys hear me?
We got you coming in loud and
I can't hear
clear. We
you.
got
Let's
you.
see what's
We
going on.
got you. You're here. We got you. You with us now, Rachel. So we got you. We hear you loud and
All right,
clear.
well,
What I'm going to do is I'm backing everybody up to what you have written or supposed to
yes,
have written because I caught a couple of you that didn't do the homework. So I'm going to catch you right now with the quote that you were supposed to do on page 21. So drop it in the chat, tag us online, or just take a moment to say it out loud because your
me.
voice matters. Your healing matters. Let's do the work together and let's do it tonight. So there was quotes that was on that page that I was expecting everybody to at least try to do. For our listeners and viewers, drop it in the comments, share it in the live chat, or post it using the hashtag not easily broken to uplift one another with words that heal and empower. So let's turn the page, literally and emotionally, to a section that asks us to go deeper. Let's talk about that. What resonated with you the most of those two quotes? And any one of my panelists can answer that. So, something's telling me that somebody didn't do their homework again.
Actually,
Uh-oh.
which quote, which there were
On
one,
page 20, we're on page 21, and there's
right?
two quotes on those pages. Which one
Okay, either
resonated
one,
with you the
either,
most?
either one of them.
Either one.
I think the
I
second one.
did the second.
Go ahead.
I did the second one too.
Most people did the second one. Tell me about that second one. What about that second one?
Well, from my perspective,
Nicole, you had mentioned, or BG?
from Miss Nicole, you want to go ahead?
I put your mental health is just as important as your physical health. It's okay not to be it's okay not to be happy. You are not your mental health issue. Your struggles do not define you. Taking care of your mental health is an act of self-care. You are a vessel of happiness and peace of mind.
Wow. So that's the one that resonated with you the most. In
Yes.
what way do you think your healing process?
Well, due to me having a strict upbringing and having a lot of things happen to me in my life, I feel like mental health is the key for me to heal. Seeking a counselor, doing self care, taking time out to do things for yourself, and have a balance between work and play.
And what about you, B, as well?
Was that directed to me?
BG, you said that the second one resonated with you as well. What about that second one resonated with you?
Well, my response was pretty close to hers. Um, your emotional health is just as important as your physical health. It's okay to be. It's okay. It's okay not to be happy. You are not your mental self.
Hmm.
Your struggles do your struggles do not define you. Taking care of your mental health is an act of love. You are you are deserving of happiness and peace of mind.
So what about that quote? Is helping
Well, in for me personally, which is personal to all of us, but for me, it the idea of being able to take care of, because if you are not mentally healthy, then everything else about your health goes downhill from there. You have to be mentally healthy, mentally strong, just to endure the challenges of this world. So it all starts in the mind. If you want to be strong physically, you have to first make up your mind to do so. If you want to be strong and healthy emotionally, you have to first make up your mind to do so. So if your mind is not at optimum level for performance, then everything else about you suffers.
yeah, you're right. But then there's some people that's just not ready and don't accept that there's a mental health concern, I'll say, that
Another
dealing
thing
with
I
or
wanted
have been dealing with. They didn't recognize it. And sometimes some people never do. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Nicole.
another thing I wanted to say is, being that I came from a big family, I always had looked up to others and always did for others and expected over and beyond for others. And then when it was time for me to get what I needed, from others, I was always not, getting what I put out. And it's very important that you take care of yourself and look out for yourself, even though it is good to take care of others as well. And that I feel like that can be a damper on your mental health if you always taking care of other people and not yourself.
Well, I look at that as if it's the plane, the airplane ride. You have to be able to put that mask on yourself before you can help the person that's next to you. So self care is, to me, the best care. But we're going to go right into and dive into what's coming up for today. We often learn how to love ourselves through how we are loved as children. When it goes well, we feel it, we absorb it, and we carry that self worth into adulthood. But for many of us, that love was conditional, confusing, or even absent, and the effects of that still lingers on. The question we're exploring tonight is what didn't you receive in childhood that you now know would help you heal today? Can anyone identify something that you needed in childhood emotionally or physically that you never received? And it's not to say whether you have a good parent or a bad parent. We're not bashing our parents. It's just that as kids, we want certain things. I was just going over with my son. You know, he was reminiscing about his high school, and I had to remind him that it was very difficult for me with his high school, and he got very upset with me because I didn't get it for him. But now he's looking back at it and he said, "Ma, now I know why I didn't get it. We were in a different place than we are now." And I said, "Yeah, I was in survival mode, and you were a child, so there wasn't something I was willing to share with you. But I was looked at, I'm quite sure, by you as the mean mommy. I wasn't getting you the things that your friends had." But he sees differently now. I said, "Now you're a dad, so now you have to go through that same journey, maybe, that I did. But hopefully that you'll be able to explain it to them." And Nicole, you had your hand up for that one?
Yeah, I did. I didn't get a lot of material things, and I felt like I should have because I was an honor student, and there was a lot of other kids that wasn't honor students that was getting a lot of material things such as cars and up to date hairdos and all of that. And also, my dad was really strict, so it was only certain people that I was allowed to go out with, because if he didn't talk to their parents about their parental style, I wasn't going. And he made that very clear. And now I do the same thing with my child. But at first, I didn't want, I didn't like the fact that he would call the persons that I was going out with parents to see when we were going, where we were going, when we was coming back, and their parental style. But now I understand that in these times that it's a good thing to do.
More so than it was physically. Nicole, was it more emotional or was it physical?
It was more emotional because I feel like I do well. I don't cause any problems at school, and it was a damper because I really wanted to be able to socialize more. I didn't feel like my parent trusted me enough to do the right thing, so they held these parameters on when I could go in, when I could come out, and I feel like there was no trust between me and my parents.
Well, I'm so glad that you was able to build that trust between you and your children now. If anyone can go back and speak to their younger self, what would you say or give them? Just think about it. Your younger self. You can pick any age, any era. If you can go back and speak to your younger self, now I see some of you smiling because I see that y'all got some stuff that y'all want to tell them. What would you say to them, or what would you give them?
That's a little bit
I
challenging.
can't hear you, Miss Bobby.
Shanette.
Bobby, I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Okay.
Yep, got you now.
I would tell myself that you do have a voice and you're not crazy. You do have a voice. That's what I would tell my younger self because of the power in having, uh, I guess, permission. I went through the not to really digress on that first question, but I realized that the trauma or the drama or the whatever it was that I had to be healed from today did not start with just me encapsulating me, as you said, Black Diamond. My mother already had trauma. It just, maybe as a child, I see it from my perspective, of what's happening to me or not happening to me. But I would tell my younger self, you have a voice. You can say something. And as you were talking about with your son, and after he got older, then he could see, oh, okay, so I knew what was going on in my perspective, but I didn't know that this was a generation ahead of me. So the healing that I got today came about by finding out this secret that I have a voice, because I always such a, growing up, you had to have, as a child, you didn't speak unless, you just didn't have a voice. But I would tell myself, say something anyway. It would have kept a lot of painful things, I believe, even as a child, from happening. Just say it anyway.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I think it's important for us as parents to give our children permission to be able to use their voice, because so many of the children are hiding behind speak when you're spoken to,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be in some cases abuse, and because you weren't spoken to about it, you're holding it in, you're not telling anybody, and then you grow up with what some people consider a secret, and then they may say to you, why are you saying something about it now? Because many of us grew up with, you don't speak unless you're spoken to, you understand, and they feel as though they didn't have a voice. And at this point in their life as an adult, many think nobody wants to hear them. Many believe that people don't believe them.
That's right.
So I definitely get it. So giving them permission and permitting them to have a voice is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important.
Yes.
BG, you was going to say?
Oh no, I was just a caveat. It's difficult, I mean, when you talk about memory, I can't help you there because I don't have one. I can't speak on that.
Well, we're going to help you along with that. We're not talking about how far anybody got to go back, because there's some places that I don't want to go. There's some places in decades that I don't even want to think about,
Even want to think
that'll probably still shock me. If I had to tell my younger self might say, "Are you kidding me?"
like, shut
So
up.
I'm with you on that, BJ. So don't worry about that. We got you on that, because I'm telling you, I have a huge picture of myself in my front room, and my kids thought that I didn't hang it on the wall because I didn't have anybody to put it up there for me. But that's not the reason why it's on the floor. The reason why it's on the floor, and it's about the size of one of my grandchildren, is because I look at that picture every day and I see in the eyes of that little girl the things that she went through. And every day I go past her, I apologize to her for the life that she had. And some may think that I'm crazy for thinking it, but for some reason, I see, as life is going on for me, and I apologize, and I'm trying to make things different, and live a better life. I see a different light in the eyes of that child. And I'm just so proud that I'm able to do that. And that gets me through, because I said, someday you won't be that child anymore. So that's the child that's still inside of me, that I'm still nurturing, that I'm still parenting. So that's going to stay there. So I'm hoping I don't come home one day and my son say, "Oh, ma, I wanted to hang the picture up." Leave it right where it's at, because I'm meeting her where she's at. If you're hanging it up, she's above me. I don't want her there. She needs to be right there, because she's still that child right now. So when she comes up, she'll come up at the level where I need for her to be. So that's just me talking and ranting and whatnot. Dr. C, Dr. Carolyn Stephens just joined us, and we were talking to our panel about healing the real you. And we had some that answered the question that if they can go back and speak to their younger self, what would they say or give to themselves? And then we also asked them that, can they identify something that they needed in childhood, emotionally or physically, that they never received? So, Dr. Stevens, I would like to ask you, I would love for you to join in here. As a clinical therapist, how do you see these unmet childhood needs showing up in the adult clients that you work with?
Okay, now I want to make sure you all can hear me. I had a little bit of tech
Yes, we can.
issues. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, we
because
can.
I think I'm going to try to join in on another way. Okay, and so I did hear the question, but would you repeat your? I mean, I heard the part of the conversation. So could you repeat the question for me, Diamond?
Yes, yes. What I'm saying is, as a clinical therapist, how do you see these unmet childhood needs showing up in the adult clients that we work with?
Oh, oh, okay. That's an interesting question. I recently had this conversation. Um, so without making my answer too lengthy, okay. So in therapy, uh, we use one of the models that we follow by is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And even people who don't do therapy probably are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's usually represented by a pyramid. And on the bottom of the pyramid, and as it goes up, then they have listed certain needs that a human being has to develop properly or holistically. Safety, and then at the bottom of the list, the pyramid is the safety. And as you go up to the top of the pyramid, it's called self actualization. And so Maslow believe that when people miss out on any of these needs in their life, especially growing up as a child or a teenager, if they skipped in getting these kinds of needs met, then it showed up in their adulthood. So, to your question, absolutely. For example, if you have an adult, like I do have some adult clients who live in a lot of fear, that fear may show up in the way that they handle, let's say, money, right? And then when you start to talk to them about their childhood, you may find out that they came from a neglectful family, or they came from a neglectful parent. They came from a family that encountered severe poverty. They grew up not getting their needs met. And so then what happens is that because in that area they were never properly developed, when they become an adult, then those unmet needs show up in them as an adult. It may come out in fear, it may come out in them resembling the same kind of unmet need that they experienced in their life. Like they grew up not being a nurtured person. Then when they grow up and begin to parent, they may be that kind of parent that is not nurturing. So certainly when individuals grow up not getting their needs met, then when those needs are not met, and how you meet those needs in your adult life is by first identifying that you have some needs that have been unmet. That's the first thing. And but if you don't recognize that, get help for it, then they can show up in your adulthood. Yes.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And for those tuning in, this might be the first time that you thought about your childhood this way. Take a moment and ask yourself, what didn't I get as a child that I still need now? And how can I begin to give that to myself today? Old wounds have a way of showing up uninvited through a memory, a relationship, a trigger, or even in moments of stillness. When those past hurts resurface, what helped you hold space for them? And what truly supports your healing in those moments? Somebody on the panel chime in for that one. When those past hurts resurface, what helped you hold space for them?
So I'll share. So just to answer the question, so you know where I'm coming from. So, what did I get in my childhood that would help me heal today? Would be validation. So, from my biological father. So, I struggled with feeling worthy, and my identity at times because of that. I even had an emotional security, and I realized that when I got married, and I realized how much it actually was affecting my relationship. Um, there were times where I felt like I was okay. And like Dr. Stevens said, the first step is just identifying that you have this issue. And I would just cover it up and say, I'm okay. I understand. But I had questions as a little girl, you know, and I would ask my mom, like, why doesn't he want me? Or why doesn't he want to be here? And I don't know that it was anything that, maybe he was struggling with his own things, but um, this little girl, and back to your what you said about that little girl, Black Diamond, is sometimes that little girl in me still wants my dad. I do have my stepfather who has been in my life since I was 3, so he has been my dad. But for me, it was I wanted my dad. So, what I do to help me heal those wounds when they do resurface is just reminding myself of the truth, and that is that I am worthy, and that I am enough, and that my value is not defined by who didn't show up. So the
There you
challenges
go.
that I face during that process is just letting go of that expectation because, again, my 36 self, I still want my dad sometimes. And we do talk, it's not like I want it to be. I do still have that desire. And I have shared this with him as well, that I do have the desire to still build that relationship. I know the little girl is no longer I'm not little anymore physically, but emotionally, again, I still just want my dad. So um, to help me heal, one is identifying that, and then just letting go of the expectation that I might not get that full relationship that I've always wanted, while still choosing to heal. Um, is taking that strength, but like I said, still just accepting that I might not. I have a small relationship, and although I think it just goes back to like you said, like Diamond, like our parents just kind of taught us what they knew, um, and kind of showed up how they knew. So I don't fault him, but still, it's just that because my stepdad taught me everything I needed, but then at the same time, I recognized his trauma that stopped him from a lot of things as well. So just growing up and learning that, and I've been through therapy and stuff like that as well. So it's helped me understand a lot more now. But validation will be the biggest thing that sometimes it'll peek its head up, just have you thinking. But I think it's just a shift in your mindset and reminding yourself of the truth. And then it's important for me because, you all know I have my daughter who, was born with a rare condition. So it's important for me to heal so I can, love her and genuinely show her true healing so I can make sure that she walks in her worth and knows that she's enough and knows that she's valued. So,
Well said. Thank you so much for sharing. Would anybody else like to share?
I will, Black Diamond.
Thank you.
Um, just kind of piggybacking off what Farron said a little bit. I think if I had to relate it to like as far as like a father figure, I would say validation. But for me, I think what I would give the little girl would be reassurance. So I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, who were both single women. And I feel like, just even most of us on this phone being just, Black women, it's like it's that strong Black woman mentality. And so there wasn't really. I feel like I grew up a lot of times like with this perfectionist spirit, and I don't think that my mom or my grandmother meant to, make everything a perfectionist, but it's like it was almost feeling like it was no room for error. And so now as an adult, I'm struggling trying to get out of this. You have to be perfect thing. Everything has to be right, to the point where I kind of do the opposite on purpose. Just to kind of show myself that grace, because it wasn't a lot of reassurance. It was like it was mom, grandma, single mom, survival. Everybody's in survival mode. Everybody's trying to make it, and then it almost kind of felt like it was every man for themselves. So when you have strong Black women, a lot of times it's like it ain't nobody else. This is what you got to do. We don't have time for tears. Get up, fix it, and keep it moving. And so I feel like that just made me feel like I always had to be perfect or do everything right. And I feel like maybe if they had stopped and just said, okay, it's okay that you messed up, Shayna, or it's okay, as opposed to just fix it, fix it, fix it, maybe I would know how to show myself a little bit more grace in adulthood. And then as far as like, what do I do now? And I mean, if y'all know me, I'm like borderline church girl, so like I put on praise and worship music. And I think that has been really pivotal for me, like over the last couple of years, even in the sense of just learning how to just be present. Like I just put on worship music, and I'm right now I'm in a position where I'm trying to like literally like learn how to just sit in the room by myself and just lift my hands. But more so I just put it on and just like kind of learn to still my mind. Because I can't figure it out. I can't have it all figured out. I keep messing up, and I'm really hard on myself. And I think even going to what Dr. Carolyn said about the Maslow's hierarchy. So while we were sitting here, like I looked it up, and just learning and what she said about what you don't get from that chart might be something that shows up in your adulthood. So looking at the chart at the bottom is physiological needs, then it goes to safety and security, love and belonging, self-esteem, and then self-actualization. I feel like I stopped at love and belonging. Like I never felt like I didn't have a family. Like, we were close, but it was just hard. So it wasn't that reassurance that helped build self-esteem or self-confidence. It wasn't that, I struggle, being confident like who I am. Like I was just telling a friend, like I know I'm great, like I know I'm smart, like I know I do these things, but some days it's just like I don't know if I really believe it, and so I'm just learning how
Don't
to,
believe
at
it.
now, almost 40, trying to really just embrace like who I am, know that it's okay. I'm not mad at my mom or my grandmother, like they were just single moms doing what we know how to do. And I'm here. Like it's a healing process every day. And I realize too that every time I try to accomplish a new feat or, just go a little bit higher, the trauma and the PTSD, just like from the things that I dealt with, like people who hurt me or, things that I took personally that probably weren't personal, like they show up every time I try to move to a new height, so I have to really be intentional about my praise and worship because right now, like that's the only thing that stills my mind. And I'm intentional about not going to vices like sex or drugs or drink. Like I'm intentional about that.
Oh,
So I
yes.
don't go that route. Let me just put on this Jesus music right quick so I can bring it together and just realize like I am okay. Like Farron said, I am enough. Like I am healed and I don't have to be perfect and everything is okay.
Amen,
Yeah,
amen,
praise and
amen. I'm
worship
so
does help.
glad.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you both and for all of you for sharing and just knowing your own strengths because that's important to know your own
Yeah.
strengths. Dr. Stevens, I'd love for you to speak into this from your perspective as a clinical therapist. What are some healthy ways people can support themselves when emotional wounds resurface, especially when those wounds catch them off guard?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That's okay. From your perspective as a clinical therapist, what are some healthy ways people can support themselves when emotional wounds resurface, especially when those wounds catch them off guard?
Um, we always felt alone. Maybe we were a latch, what they call a latchkey kid. Um, we were always just kind of taking care of ourselves because we weren't parented properly or we didn't get a certain amount of mothering or nurturing. And then what happens is we we grow up and become adults And then we don't allow ourselves to be supported, even though there are people there that want to support, but we won't allow ourselves to be supported. I.e., an example is that you could be a person in a marriage, but but you are emotionally unavailable, and your partner is trying to figure out, I'm doing all I can to love her, let's say, or love him, and why are they, so stoic? Um, because that person has a hard time responding to authentic love, or genuine love or support, because they don't allow themselves to be supported. And so I would certainly say that the very first thing that we can do is allow ourselves to be supported, whether that's a therapist. So the reason why people like me, because I'm an objective person. I'm someone who may not know your family background. I'm going to be objective, and so people feel safer with an objective person. So if you start to find yourself reliving um, some of your early childhood traumatic experiences, or and let me tell you, uh, there are lots of people who don't realize that they are reliving traumatic experiences. What they realize is that they are exemplifying or exhibiting behaviors that they themselves don't like, or there are other people that they work with, people that they go to church with, people, persons in their marriage, or they have a hard time developing relationships. They start to point out things to you, and you may be an individual saying, hey, I know there's something wrong, because I'm starting to see patterns. I'm seeing patterns in relationships. Patterns could be, I don't keep relationships. They start to see that they don't maintain friendships. And so even though they may not
Right.
intentionally be trying to do that, but because of those unresolved issues in their life as a child or an adolescent, this is how they respond to where they've been and what they have been through, and then the needs that they have not gotten met.
So
So allow yourself to.
as an adult, they're going to have a lot of unpacking to do, peeling back the layers. It is a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's worth that self work. To our listeners and viewers, when those old wounds creep back in, what's your go to healing tool? Is it journaling, breathing, therapy, prayer, such as Shayna said, music, and movement? Share it with us. We want to know what's working for you. Healing isn't linear. Some days we feel empowered, other days it feels like we're. Let's talk about the challenges. What are you currently facing in your healing process? And what barriers or inner battles are showing up for you right now? Anybody on the panel can answer that question.
Um, I'm sorry, Bobby, were you about to go?
No, Shayna, I want to tell you something. I've been sitting here being so dignified, but you about to mess me up.
What
I'm
is
telling you, Dr. Steven said some stuff about to mess me up. Now, I want y'all to know I know how to be dignified. I do. I promise. But to understand that Maslow, that little tip of that pyramid for, self-actualization and learning who am I and how this thing's supposed to go, and I live in a place where I am healed. And sometimes just to say that out loud is like, oh love, ain't nobody healed. Everybody's still sick. You still sick. And I said, oh, I'm not. I understand who I am. And I also understand that there's such a thing as Dr. Stevens, she did it for me. Yeah, there are going to be some unmet needs because this is a world system where there is generation after generation after generations of this type of thing. It doesn't start with grandma. If you go on back great, great, whosoever. All of that trauma is no way to break the cycle with self. Once that identity comes, oh yeah, then the cycle's broken. And Black Diamond, girl, you is just all of that. You hear me? Cracks in the surface, but there's some strength down there. Yeah, because there's this thin line between us having the self-care and being able, as Dr. Carolyn say, to be supported. Yes, there got to be a time when we got to realize if I made myself, then I can fix myself. But if I didn't make myself,
Mm-hmm.
how in the monkey, I'm from down south, how in the monkey am I going to fix me? I can't go back with none of that stuff that I was born into. But at that little top of that pyramid with self actualization, it's not like starting from the bottom going up, but rather from the top going down. Because once that self actualization takes place with understanding, let me get to who made me. Now, that's a tough one because to go and actually have faith that there is somebody that made me and it isn't just mama or daddy, that somebody made them. I'm gonna bring this down because I'm gonna tell y'all something. This is Shayna's fault. When I realized that, when I realized that my mother became an overcomer, she used to tell me, "You see what I went through because I was a little girl." She said, "Did you see? You saw all what happened to me?" And she said, "But keep looking at me because I've overcome that. So you're not going to forever be seeking to be healed. At some point, you are healed, and it comes from the top of that little pyramid that I'm not reasoning with anybody else except I understand that there's stuff that happened to me ain't nobody gonna fix except the person that made me because I can't fix me. And listen, y'all, I love y'all so much. I'm so honored to be with y'all, but I am healed. I got cracks. I gotta keep the cracks. If I don't keep the cracks, then I can't reach the people that are still in them because when they see me, they'll be like, "You don't know." But I know. I know what it's like to be with a person who's hours from committing suicide and they needed to say something, not for me to rescue them, but they needed to just say, "This is what happened to me. This is what went on." Dr. Carolyn, they just needed somebody to just don't say nothing. Listen to me.
Mm.
That's all they want. They don't need nothing else. Can I say it to you without any of your judgment, without any of your help? Let me say it. And I'm saying that tonight too, that Black Diamond, this platform, opens up space for people to say what you got to say. It ain't got to come out right. If you'll say it, you're actually praying. When you go see your therapist, you're actually entering into an anointed space where your voice is now able to push out all that toxin, all that poison, all of that whatever. And when you're done, they sit right there and they go, "Okay, you didn't do nothing wrong
Wow.
by saying what you had to say. It did happen to you. No, it was not your fault. We ain't gonna talk about it was your mama's fault. We just want you to know, I hear you. It happened to you." And sometimes that's just enough space to keep a person from picking up the gun and shooting them. It's enough for them to keep from picking up the gun and shooting the people that they thought let them down. Now that's healing. Listen, cracks in the surface. I don't know if you can see the workbook. Cracks in the surface. Strength is in the core. It's in the letting that help you. And I do recommend, like Shayna said, that girl done messed me up. If it were not for that name Jesus, I'd have still been waiting on for somebody to come rescue me. But I'm healed. I'm not getting healed. I'm healed. Do I have the issues that I have to address on a day-to-day grind because I'm still living life and life is life and life is
Life
life.
is life.
But I'm that same
Yes.
chick. When life is life and I'm doing my thing too. When I remember that that was a rape, I rise up and say, "It sure was." And God done already forgave them. He done forgave me. And I'm not there. I'm not living by the shore of my trauma. trying to hash it out every day. That junk over. Thank God for therapists. I thank God for
Yes,
therapy
Lord. Thank you.
because they
Thank God
are
for
that person.
therapists.
If you don't have faith, you can talk to them because it ain't going nowhere. They ain't gonna get through talking to you and get on the phone. Let me call your mama. Let me call whoever you talked about. It stays right there. It stays right there.
There's privacy
You
and
need
confidentiality with that, and we know that that's what they practice. They don't just preach it; they practice it. Privacy and confidentiality. And if anybody doesn't know what it is, look it up. There's a difference, but then there's also a combination that psychiatrists and therapists, and I'm not going to sit there and talk about what Dr. Caroline already does, but there is a difference. And privacy and confidentiality. And with her, I know that she holds both and she holds them dearly. And this is what we do because we had a conversation prior to us coming on the air, and we were also talking with the producer about many things that were happening in so many different communities. And we're hitting on the surface of many of those things that we're having. So we know healing is layered and deeply personal. From your clinical perspective, what are some of the most common challenges people face on the road to emotional recovery, Dr. Stevens?
Some of the most common challenges that people encounter on the road to emotional recovery. Well, the biggest is that as you work with a therapist, let's say, or you are talking to a friend, you could choose, or a faith based minister, whoever you choose to serve as a confidant. I would still add that you need to still couple that with working with a professional, because as you're working through your trauma or as you're on the road to emotional recovery, the biggest challenge is becoming triggered, which is why some people choose not to talk about things, which is why some people choose to um, avoid certain things, because part of emotional recovery means that you are going to be triggered. But when you're triggered, and this is what a professional person will do, they're going to help you navigate on the road to recovery when you become triggered, because in trauma informed therapy, okay, then we help that person to identify what it is that you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and then help them to navigate through that. Not negate it, not push it to the side, but to actually go on and deal with your trauma or whatever it is that you're going through. And I do have to say this honestly, this is the reason why people medicate. If I may go a step further, and I am in the Christian
Mm.
community. People who are in the Christian community or faith-based community, we are very susceptible to that, because sometimes we talk about medicating, we talk about drugs, we talk about sex, it could be food or what have you. Sometimes going to church, um, we can use church in the wrong way, in that we're self-medicating because we're avoiding dealing with our issues. Okay, not necessarily using the church or the faith-based community or your faith as a means of healing, but as a way of avoiding those things that will help you heal. So we do have to be careful, because that those are the other challenges, Black, that people encounter on the road to emotional recovery, is that you medicate. Okay, you might say, well, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke cigarettes, I don't drink alcohol. Okay, but then there are some people who eat. There are some people who gossip. And anytime you use other
Right.
things to replace your pain, not so much replace the pain, but replace it, but to avoid dealing with the pain. And this is why, when I work with clients who are substance abuse user, they say that coming off of drugs is a very hard thing because of the emotional parts of it. Because once they get clean, they start to remember why they started taking drugs in the first place. And the truth is, people just don't like to remember. They don't want to remember what gave them pain. They don't want to remember, but you have to remember in order to heal. So I'll say it like this in closing to that question: you got to deal in order to heal. That's one way I say that. You got to deal in order to heal. Okay. The other thing I often say is that you can't heal something you're not willing to confront.
Right.
Again, you cannot heal something that you're not willing to confront. So you have to confront
So
it.
do you think that they can move through their emotional recovery with compassion and resilience?
I do. I do believe that. Again, first, learn to have compassion for yourself. I think it was Bobby that said it. It was not your fault. And you may have to remind yourself of that constantly, every day, 5 times a day. Whatever happened, it was not your fault. Um, I myself um, had experienced a rape in my life. I was a young teenage girl. I had experienced a rape, but I realized that that was not my fault. Even though people might say you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, but it doesn't matter. That was not my fault. So you first thing you have to do is you have to have compassion for yourself. Practice self-compassion, knowing that it was not your fault. Engage in a community of people, whether that's a combination of friends or family or your faith-based community. Engage and network with a community of people that celebrate you and not tolerate you. Because oftentimes when we have encountered rejection in our life, we tend to gravitate to people who are constantly rejecting us in their own way. And then we get into people pleasing because we're always trying to please somebody because we're always trying to be accepted. So allow yourself to give yourself compassion. Allow yourself to be a part of a network of people who love you, who celebrate you, who
Yes.
remind you that you are wonderful, you are authentic. You don't have to perform for us to love you. I often say to people that I love, and I love all of you here on this panel, the only thing you have to do for me to love you is to wake up in the morning. Period. Point blank. I'm good with that. You wake up in the morning and you keep on being you. That's my criteria for loving you.
Yeah.
When I work with people and I do coaching and consulting, I've said this to Shayna. So she's probably most familiar with it. How you pay me back, you go out there and be great. Go be great. And that's my reward. And I feel that way about any woman that I work with. If I'm empowering you or we're working on a project together, the greatest way you pay me is by doing you and being you. And the reason why I repeat that is because I know, especially culturally as women, that sometimes we have emotional deficiencies in that area. And so I want to be a part of that community of people that reminds you that you are authentically, you are okay, you are wonderful just the way you are. So allow yourself to be a part of those kinds of communities and not just constantly jumping hoops trying to prove yourself and trying to be loved by people who do not authentically love you. Those are things that we need to do on the emotional road to recovery.
So VG, we're not forgetting that you're here and that the men is a part of this as well. Sometimes men will feel as though that they're left out of that circle, but they're not.
Mm-mm.
They're
It's a
not. They're included in it in so many ways
Right.
that it's just so unbelievable that the stand that they take, and we love for them to take that lead because
well,
whether they want to believe it or not, or whether some women want to hear it or not, women are still looking for the man to take the lead. They don't always want to take that position.
the inside joke. I always say I'm very much in touch with my feminine side, so you can't offend me.
Oh, see, I appreciate that with you, BG. I
You,
wish I had a microphone to be able to send it to everybody for them to hear that it is okay, because women are in touch with their masculine side every day, and you hear more about the women being more so attached to their masculine side because they'll say, "Oh, that angry so and so woman," or whatever they want to call it. But you don't hear too many brave men such as yourself saying that you are in touch with your feminine side, and I thank you so much for that. So if you're following along in the workbook or can grab a piece of paper, take a moment to write down one challenge that's come up in your healing. Name it, because naming it is the first step to shifting it. Tonight's discussion was real, raw, and it was necessary. Healing is not easy, by no means, but it is possible when we're willing to sit with our truth, speak it out loud, and do the work together. To everyone listening, remember you are not alone in this journey. Keep turning the pages of your workbook. Keep showing up for yourself. Healing is the real you. It takes time, but you are worth every second of it. Every second of it, you are worth it. So we meet again for the next panel on Friday, July 19th. We'll be diving into walking in your purpose with self-discipline, and that's on page 24 and 25. And we're also going to go to page 26 for emotional challenges. So I want to hear a little bit about that when we come back. But before we go, mark your calendars for the next episode, Friday. It's going to be on the 4th of July. So I want everybody to carve out some time to be here at 8 o'clock. It's very important. It's a very special night with poet and author Lachey Ruckman. She is the voice behind Rooted Child Volume 1. But this episode that she's going to be on goes far beyond poetry. Lachey will be opening up her heart and sharing her daughter Cash's powerful journey through heart failure and the fight for a life-saving transplant. So please, I know we're going to be all in celebrating and barbecuing and having whatever we're going to have, but join us that night. Be here with our sister. She's going to be sharing the information about her daughter's powerful journey through heart failure and the fight that this little girl has for a life saving transport. This is not just a story, it's a call to awareness, advocacy, and action. You don't want to miss it. Friday, the 4th of July at 8 p.m., right here on Basic Black After Dark. So until next time, thanks for keeping it basic.